Hello, my name is Yishai Koblik, and welcome to the RADECT Health Podcast. Today we have Desiree Schmidt. She's a yoga and fitness instructor living with Crohn's disease. Her journey into wellness has sought ways to improve health, and she is from Green Bay, Wisconsin. And yes, she is a Packers fan, but you can still root for her if that's not your team. So that's great. We're going to discuss about Desiree and her ability to work with aging population, healthcare workers, and what she sees as the next steps in wellness. Welcome, Desiree.
Hi, thanks, Yeshaya.
So, can you talk to me a little bit about your journey into fitness and yoga?
Yeah, so my journey into fitness began actually a long time ago. So I was 17 when I first started teaching fitness classes. Prior to that, I had never taken a fitness class or had been involved in fitness classes. So I kind of went headfirst into the world by teaching. I went right into teaching. And I fell in love with it immediately because I've always enjoyed helping others. I've always sought ways to help out with the community, get involved somehow. So that was my way at a young age of getting involved and helping people, was to teach these fitness classes. And I don't know if you remember jazzercise classes, but that was the first kind of programming that I had taught. And I realized that it wasn't just about the class, right? It wasn't just about the exercises or the music or anything like that. It was about the camaraderie. It was about the participants. And after the classes, the participants would come up to me and say all these wonderful things about how the class helped them and what it did for them. And it always made me feel really good inside. And the more I taught and the longer I taught, the better it made me feel. And so I've continued teaching since then. So it's been almost 18 years that I've been teaching fitness classes. And so I've seen the world grow in like the health and wellness side of things in that fitness realm. And as far as yoga goes, I had taken yoga classes as a participant. Because of my fitness journey as an instructor, I saw yoga as a way to calm down and relax. And as far as I think a lot of people see yoga as stretching, and relaxing, a way to if they have tired and sore muscles, they think of yoga. They want to take a yoga class, stretch their muscles, and maybe they can calm down and relax. And that's what I saw yoga as at first as well. So I had taken a lot of yoga classes just as a participant. And when you introduced me, you mentioned that I am living with Crohn's disease, and I've had Crohn's disease since I was 15. So even before I began my fitness journey, I had learned to live with, or at least manage my Crohn's. And about, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, I was hit pretty hard with the Crohn's flare up. And Crohn's disease affects your digestive system. So it affects your colon, your small and large intestines, what you can eat, those kind of things. And when I was hit with this major flare, I had to completely stop everything I was doing in fitness. So all the classes I was teaching, I had to stop doing all that. And I was basically ordered to stay in bed, not to do anything at all. And I was going crazy. I didn't know what to do with myself because I was one of those people that was up at 5 a.m. every day. I was active every day. And so to go from, 10 to 0 was just driving me crazy. And so I found yoga in a different way where I would close my eyes and I started to visualize myself going through a yoga class. And it just kind of naturally happened one day when I started doing this. And all of a sudden I felt better. I felt more calm. I felt more relaxed. The anxiety that I had started to feel started going away. I had started going into a state of depression because I wasn't able to work out and do my regular fitness routine. And by doing this yoga routine essentially in my mind, I was able to help my depression at the same time. And then little by little, as I started to feel better from this Crohn's flare, and my doctor said, okay, you can start to do gentle movement. He wouldn't let me go back to my regular fitness routine, but he said, you can try yoga. And I was like, wow, that's amazing he said that because I've been doing yoga in my head. And so then I started doing yoga at home in my living room, just looking up YouTube videos on how to do some gentle yoga poses. And I found that some of these postures that I was doing really helped not only bring back movement into my life again, getting my body moving, and just getting me out of the bed, getting me out and about again. But I also realized that some of the symptoms I was experiencing, like gas, bloating, cramps, those kind of things that are all involved with that digestive system, some of the yoga postures were actually helping to ease some of those symptoms. So I really found like a 2-for-1 kind of thing. I was getting out of bed, helping with my movement, as well as easing some of the symptoms. So my fitness journey kind of led into yoga. And after I came out of that major flare and realized how well yoga worked for me and all the benefits it had, I was kind of drawn to become a certified yoga instructor, and I went right into my 200-hour yoga certification and kept going into my 300-hour certification. So I am a 500-hour yoga certified instructor, and that includes meditation at the same time, because I did find that meditating as well at that moment when I was in that major flare helped me just with that anxiety, helped me during that state of depression at the same time, easing some of those symptoms as well. So that's kind of what brought me to the here and now and why I want to help others, especially through RADECT and patients that are experiencing the same symptoms through Crohn's disease, through IBS, ulcerative colitis, but they're kind of all in the same family. But I've seen firsthand what yoga can do for these kind of symptoms and for other patients out there as well. And there's a whole slew of side effects that come along with these kind of autoimmune diseases and can help a lot.
So you've seen clients for a long time, and a lot of people have health conditions. How have you been able to work with them? Because, they come in, they do the yoga exercises or fitness exercises, but you have to account for what those are. And then you've somewhat siloed in the healthcare community how to help. So how have you gone about doing that? And what are some of the stories that you've had that have been beneficial for some of these clients that, based on your own circumstances, you've been able to help these people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're absolutely right. All the clients I train, right now, a lot of the clients I see in yoga, I work with private yoga sessions. So I get to see them one-on-one, which is really beneficial because I can tailor the yoga class to their specific needs. And when a person comes in, I should say myself personally, at least with it as a yoga professional, take a questionnaire, and I want to know about their lifestyle and as well as their any health concerns that they have, and to make sure that they did ask their doctor that it's okay that they practice yoga. So we know and we're aware of what's going on with themselves physically and even mentally and emotionally as well. So that includes if they are experiencing anxiety, depression, those kind of things as well, because those do affect us physically at the same time. If you're experiencing anxiety, you're going to hold tension. You might be clenching up through your jaw, clenching up through your muscles, those kind of things. So they can go hand in hand. So as a yoga professional, then by knowing all of that, there are certain postures and certain breath work that can help release the tension, release that anxiety, help with depression. Some common things that I see in my clients that come in across the board, I would say the muscle tension and pain is one of the number one ailments that I hear a lot from my patients. Joint pain is a big one that I see from a lot of people. And that's becoming more and more common too, that I hear that more and more from almost every single client that comes in. If you ask them if there's one thing that is bothering you right now, what would it be? Joint pain or muscle aches? It always comes up from them. And so as I'm working with them on their yoga postures week after week after week, I'm using follow-up questions. So it might be, 3 to 5 weeks later, I might say something like, so how are your joints feeling today? Right? I'm not a physician and I'm not a doctor or even a physical therapist, but I can ask these follow-up questions to just say, how are you feeling today? How does your body feel? And I have noticed that by working with these clients after long periods of time, that they'll say things like, you know what, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I was walking down the stairs the other day and I didn't have as much pain in my knees. Or they'll say something like they were playing with their grandkids and they felt better when they bent over to pick up their grandchild. They didn't have as much pain in the hips. Or they, reached up to grab something from the top shelf and they didn't have that shoulder pain, as much shoulder pain as they did in the past, just by working with me. These are common things that I've been hearing from some of my long-term clients. And so hearing that as a yoga professional, I think is important, number one, to affirm that what we're doing is helping. And it also gives the client confidence too that what they're doing is helping, and it allows them to keep going with their own work. So that's just that's just one example of some common ailments that a lot of clients have and how it's benefiting them going forward, and kind of how I collect that information too. And I take notes on all my clients and keep that so I have that going forward too with each one.
So one of the things that comes up is, especially when you're working one-on-one with clients, is that as a fitness and yoga instructor, there's somewhat of an expectation to tell you more problems than probably what you can solve, or being a little bit outside the bounds of what you can do. And the approach has been, okay, let's just tell them, we don't handle this. But now RADECT is kind of bringing in and saying, let's do the opposite. Let's really handle this. Let's start to increase the capacity to manage a number of these issues, instead of saying, let's create. We have our silos, and this is the way we work. Is this something that you've kind of encountered a lot as from your clients, and is this something that's been a frustration for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of answer two different things. The first being, yes, it's been a huge frustration up until I started working with RADECT. So before I started working with RADECT, absolutely, members would ask me all the time about chiropractors or about physical therapists or about a dietitian. Those kind of things would always pop up. And yeah, it's beyond my scope of practice. So if I didn't know someone within that field, I didn't have anywhere to send them. I didn't have any recommendations for them. Sometimes I would try to do some research for the client, for the member. If I had heard something from another yoga instructor, or Often we take trainings as health and wellness professionals. We go to different trainings. So if I had met someone at a training or something, I might know someone to be able to refer them, but it's often that we don't have something else in that practice. So it was very difficult. And with clients and members too, it's like they get very disappointed if you don't have an answer. Yeah. Or if you're not able to point them in the right direction, or even just have a name or a website, or if you're not able to give them something, it feels like you're disappointing them. And now that I'm working with RADECT, it feels so much better, and it feels like now I have the answers. Now I can actually refer them to a physical therapist. I can refer them to a dietitian that can help them answer all their questions. And like, I have a whole team that is not only working with me, but is there for the member, and we're all here together, and vice versa. That dietitian can refer them to me as a yoga instructor, and we're all here and we're working with that client's doctor at the same time. And it just feels like a very well-groomed system. And it's about time. It feels like this should have happened years ago. And that's coming from myself as a yoga professional, but it's also coming from myself as a patient, as a Crohn's patient, because I've been one of those people who, as a patient and a client, has asked my doctor those questions of, hey, do you know someone that could help me with this or help me with that? And my doctor has not had the answers to refer me to anyone. So it would have been nice, 5-6 years ago, had my doctor been able to refer me to a yoga instructor instead of me having to stumble upon it by myself. If they would have been able to refer me to a yoga instructor to help me through my Crohn's flare, that would have been amazing. But now I can do that for another patient. Yeah. So now we can.
Nobody's coming in and saying they're a Cleveland Browns fan, because then you're probably like, boy, they need a real social worker. Now you can handle that.
Then I can refer them to the Packers. I'll just refer them.
You should probably get in touch with the Packers organization. So,
right.
Yes. So you've worked with quite an eclectic mix. I mean, you've worked with people from anywhere from 18-year-olds, 35-year-olds, different sexes, and also you've worked with aging population. What are some of the things you kind of learned from an aging population in fitness and wellness, and some of the things you wish the general fitness and yoga community would know, and also what aging people, people that are over 65, you wish they would know about yoga and fitness that would help them, versus just a yoga instructor coming into an over 65 community and saying, okay, we're going to do some exercises.
Yeah, I think some of the most important things I think it is to realize about the aging population is, I think it's two things. One, they can do more than you think they can. And two, how important it is for them to get in touch with the mental and emotional aspects of yoga, and especially with meditation and the breath work, versus just the physical things. We know that it's important for us to keep moving as we age. So yoga is a low impact option for our aging population, for them to keep moving, especially as we get beyond 65 and older. Our joints aren't what they used to be. Our muscles aren't what they used to be. Bone density, all of that. So to keep moving in a low impact option, yoga is amazing. And I think even the aging population, they understand that. We all know that. But to add in the mental aspects of focus, concentration, helping with memory, helping with even just the relaxation, calming down, again with that anxiety, depression. Those are things I don't think get talked about a lot. I've done some specific work with senior homes here in my local community where I go to the home to do classes with the participants. And I've done specific meditation classes where we focus on closing the eyes, doing some breath work, and relaxing the body. And afterwards, then I ask the participants, like, how do they feel? Just checking in with themselves. How do you feel right now? And when the participants come out of that meditation, the smiles on their faces light up the room. It's like they just went through a theme park, like a Disney theme park, and they're just lit up. Smiles, their eyes are brighter. And I've had participants come up to me and just say, that was amazing. It was peaceful. It was lovely. And they didn't even realize that was something that they really enjoyed and that they liked until they tried it. So, I think adding more of those kinds of practices, even if it's just breathing, just taking a few minutes to focus on your breath, I think is really important. So that's one aspect. And then doing more, they can do more than we think they can, is another aspect. So I have participants in my classes right now that I teach that are 99 years old. I have one that just turned 100, and she moves better than some of the participants that are 80. She's amazing. And she comes 3 days a week, every week. She only misses a class if she has a doctor's appointment that is scheduled at the same time. And she does use a walker, but she doesn't depend on it for everything. So she's still walking around, so strong. The classes that I do with them are chair strength classes, as well as a cardio class, and she does all the exercises. And when I first started teaching, I started teaching this class at the end of 2019, and she's been taking them with me ever since. So we're going on almost 3 years now. And when I first started, I remember one of the nurse's aides had came up to me and just gave me a warning and said, she has a bad hip. She's had 2 hip replacements. She's got, bad shoulders. They're stiff, so she can't do any overhead movements. It came with a whole slew of kind of warnings of she can't do this, she can't do that. And I said, okay. I took all that information, I stored it, and I knew what to look for, right? And as I was teaching and as I was watching her, I saw what she was able to do, and she looked like she could move. She looked like she was doing okay. And so the more we were doing the classes, I started to challenge her a little bit and see if she could do a little bit more. And she started to grow. She started to get better. And the more she was moving, the stronger her shoulders got, the more she was able to lift her arms, the better her hips started to feel, her mobility got better, her flexibility got better, and she was able, now that it's 3 years later, she feels like she's walking better. And so she's actually getting better over time at 99 years old, getting better over time. And so I think that's something that, like I said, the nurse's aide was trying to put barriers, and it's not her fault. She was trying to make sure that, she wasn't getting injured or anything like that, which is definitely, we want to be aware if someone does have a surgery or anything like that. But also we don't want to, hinder someone from getting better or growing. because if we move, the more you move, the better you're going to get and the better you're going to feel. And we don't want to stop that. We don't want to hinder that. And it's okay to kind of push past those boundaries as long as you're being safe, as long as you're doing it appropriately with the right form and with a professional that is able to, assist you with it as well. So not be afraid to challenge our aging population.
Yes, interesting. So you get to, just by observing people, you get to learn a lot about their capabilities and their motivations, talking to them and seeing what are kind of the bottlenecks. So everybody, it sounds like, needs to be personalized. It's not like you can just do all in one, and the personalization is the most important thing. Be able to adapt. It's not just do a chair exercise for yoga if you're an aging person and watch some videos, but you actually to observe them, know what's working for them, and then trying to challenge them or understand their motivations. Now, I take that topic to something that's probably harder, nutrition, because we all love junk food and it's very difficult for most people to lose weight, especially as they get older. And most people, they struggle with eating and weight their whole lives, in some capacity. And people that have it, fortunately, then it creeps up on them. So, and it affects a lot of health conditions, of course. And so you got into nutrition. Tell me about that and what your goals have been and how you feel about trying to get people on better nutrition. And you must face a lot of challenges.
Yeah. Nutrition is a very hot topic, very hot topic. So I got into nutrition on the fitness side of things at first. So I have a fitness nutrition certification to be able to offer suggestions and guidelines to the clients that I do work with. Because like we were talking about earlier, when a member or client comes up to you and they want, and they have just questions, right? They want to know about certain things. Nutrition is a big topic that people want to know about. It goes hand in hand with fitness. It's like fitness and nutrition are the two things that clients want to know about. And to me personally, if you were to ask what are the two most important things about to get yourself into shape and health and wellness, it would be your fitness regimen, your workouts, and then what are you eating? So your nutrition as well. If you got those two things in check, you're on your way to a pretty good, healthy life. So I got that certification so I could offer suggestions to my clients and my members. And I do that in the form of meal plans. So helping them just figure out, what are they eating within a day? What does that look like in a day? What are they having for breakfast? What are they having for lunch and for dinner? So they could kind of get just a general sense of their daily calories and how many calories do they need for their body, for their age, for their activity level. Because for someone that likes all that stuff, like someone like me who loves numbers and putting that all together, and I like spreadsheets, it comes very easy and it comes very simple. But to a lot of people, it's something they don't want to deal with, they don't want to mess with. So someone like me can do all that work for them, right? Like I can do the math. I can say, hey, if you want to lose weight, so someone your age, your height, your activity level, I'll do all the work for you. This is what you need to, this is how many calories you need to eat. These are suggestions for meals that you can have each day. I can put it together in a simple meal plan and give it to that person, and the work's done for them, and then they can have it. And a lot of people like that. They like the work to be done for them. It's easy, it's put together, and then they can just go off of it. And I've had so many people tell me, like, just tell me what to do. That's what they want. Just tell me what to do, and they'll do it basically. So they want suggestions on what they should be eating for their meals, for their snacks, and moving forward. As far as myself, personally, I got into nutrition because of Crohn's disease. Nutrition has a big factor into Crohn's disease because it affects your digestive system. I have to watch what I'm eating during a flare up because I can only have things that are easily digested. And so, that might mean I need to eat toast or mashed potatoes or applesauce, something like that. So my diet has to change depending on my health condition. And for a lot of people out there, they have to do the same thing depending on what their health conditions are, whether they're living with an autoimmune disease or whether they're trying to fight inflammation. So someone with a lot of joint pain, even arthritis, osteoporosis, something like that, if you're trying to fight inflammation, there are certain foods to avoid, certain foods to add into your diet that can help with inflammation. So when I started finding out about that and started doing more research about that, it really intrigued me, and I was very interested in kind of diving down that path because inflammation affects your body and it can affect a world of health conditions to either make them worse or make them better. And I think a lot of people don't realize that something so simple, even dairy, can make your body either better or worse. And so that really interested me in there. And if they would, for example, working with RADECT, if you're working with a dietitian who can go into more detail with you, it could change your world, absolutely change your world. And that's without medication, without all the side effects and things like that. Just by changing your diet, you could help your symptoms very easily.
So if you work with clients that have kind of had stressors that result in some of the things that effectuate the diet, I mean, a lot of people, they tend to say they like to eat because it comforts them. And so how have you dealt with that issue? And that's probably something that, outside your scope of fitness and yoga and nutrition, but it comes up all the time.
It does. Yeah, it does come up all the time. And actually, it's not quite out of my scope because with yoga and meditation, I always, when someone tells me that, the first thing I think of is, number one, what is causing you that stress, right? What is causing you to want to turn to food? And what are other things you can do instead of reaching towards the food? And so can you sit down for a minute or so and just take a few breaths before you eat, before you reach for that first bite? Can you stop? Can you close your eyes? And can you just take a few breaths? Do a small meditation. And that's where I see yoga fitting into someone's life or meditation fitting into someone's life. In fact, I just had this conversation with a client of mine like a week or so ago, and I call them yoga moments. So you don't have to take an hour yoga class or a 30-minute meditation session. You can take 30 seconds to close your eyes and focus on your breath, or just to pause and quiet the body, quiet the mind before you do anything else. And that's where I see meditation and yoga fitting in for a lot of people. Just these little yoga moments throughout the day, being mindful throughout the day and just being present within that moment. So doing something like that, I think, can help a lot of people, preventing them from turning to food or even drink or something else, and doing that less often. It might not help them immediately right away, but they might do it less and less and less. And over time, they might see that they're stopping and not doing it as often, and maybe even then completely cutting it out eventually down the road, which would be the ultimate goal. Setting goals is very important for someone. If they truly want to stop stress eating, is what we call it. If they want to stop stress eating, let's set that goal. And with yoga, I love setting goals as a yoga instructor. Even with my fitness nutrition, love setting goals. Setting goals is so important. So if your end goal is to completely stop stress eating, let's make those small steps to get there. And it might be, your first step might be, just take a few breaths before you eat. It might be your first step.
Yeah.
And eventually, over time, you'll get there.
And you see if it works over time.
Yeah. Just see if it works. Because what you're trying to do, if you're eating because of stress, then your goal really is to release the stress. We're trying to get rid of the stress. We're not trying to let go of the food, because the food really isn't the problem. The problem is the stress that's causing you to eat. Food's not the problem. It's the stress. So we got to let the stress go.
So now I'm putting you on the spot, but where do you see the evolution of fitness and yoga going? Because yoga has been widespread. There's countless studios in fitness. It's, there's a gym they always say there's a gym on every corner. I wouldn't say that particularly, but there's a lot of gyms out there. There's now a lot of online studios. Where do you see this evolution of fitness, which you've been a part of for a number of years?
Yeah. Well, we all know now that since COVID, we have this online option. So virtual is forever going to be a part of our life. Hybrid options are now available where we're teaching in person as well as online. And I'm grateful for that. And I love that idea that we can now teach online for several reasons, because we can reach so many more people now with the virtual options, whereas before, as a yoga instructor or professional, even in the fitness world, I could only teach to those that were in my local community or to those that I could travel to, right? If I could drive somewhere and teach somewhere, those were the people that I could impact. Now I can impact anyone that logs in, whether you're, a few states away, you're in the next country, across the world. I can reach out and impact anybody that logs in online, which is amazing. As far as the future for yoga, absolutely, there are studios popping up everywhere, even in my local city. I see new things opening all the time. I personally feel this is at least where I want to head, and I think a lot of people are thinking this way, is that personalized approach where it's not about opening a studio that 30, 40, 50 people can come and take a class at the same time. And it's kind of like a free for all, like you're all just kind of doing your thing in this class. But I think people want a personal class, like a personal approach, almost like a personal trainer for yoga or a personal trainer for meditation. Like they want something that's just for them. And even I see this almost like, people really love like the YouTube videos or like pre-recorded classes. So with yoga, meditation, breath work, even going into like Pilates and stuff like that, they want kind of like an on-demand. They want to be able to have a library of classes, a library of videos that they can, anytime they want, they can log in, click, and have a video, and there it is. Because in this world, in our society now, our jobs are not 9 to 5. It's just not that way anymore. We are working all different hours. We're working early mornings, we're working late nights, we're working weekends, we're working whenever we want, we're working from home. So we're all over the place. So it's no longer this like, hey, I want a class after work, or hey, I want to, do a class before I go into work. It's, I want a class whenever I'm available, and I want to be able to do it when I want. So having this library of on-demand classes that they can just have videos that are available for them whenever they want. I think that's going to be the future of classes. So being that kind of online library and more personalized approach where they can literally just hire someone that is their personal yoga instructor, and it's like, hey, I want you to design these classes for me. I want you to be my coach. You're gonna, be my yoga person and teach these classes just for me. So not necessarily a yoga studio that's open for, classes that people can just come and take, but more of like, hey, I'm hiring you to teach yoga for me as like a personal person.
Sounds like the challenges in personalization is understanding a lot of details about the person, but also being able to track what the motivations are, what the stressors are, and a lot of these types of soft data that would be part of healthcare traditionally, but has kind of been removed because primary care really doesn't have the time to start to add that type of information in healthcare. And they really didn't design healthcare to be proactive. It was mainly, in a fee-for-service model, it was always, when you get sick, go see the doctor. So, and then deal, and then it's kind of like whack-a-mole. Wait till something else pops up and then try to hit it. So, I want to ask you two more things. One is you're going to be working with social workers. What do you, this is kind of an interesting, because you're going to have worksheets, you're going to have activities, you're going to be working with people to kind of assess them and help them through beyond just the breath work. It's going to be integrating some of the traditional Western areas of psychology, like cognitive behavioral therapy, if someone has depression, if they have major depressive disorder. Do you see this as a natural fit for the yoga instructor, or do you see this as something that's working within this team-based environment is something that's going to be a little bit of a rocky road?
No, I see this merging very well. As I mentioned earlier, with myself, when I first started my journey with yoga, I was in, not only was I managing anxiety, but I was in that state of depression as well. So I can attest firsthand how yoga does positively impact someone that has depression or is working with depression. So yes, I think it will integrate very well with yoga. Now, there is, a fine line as far as, yoga instructors don't diagnose or anything like that. So, working closely with the RADECT team will be very, very important. And being able to highlight exactly, what the yoga instructor's job is, like what is our role as we're working with these members in helping that particular person. So, with yoga and meditation, I think the role, if you are working with someone specifically that has depression, for example, if the social worker is working one-on-one with me, we'll say, as a yoga professional, and they want me to help with their client that has depression, I'd want to work with them individually. And if they want to be clear to say, like, hey, Desiree, your role is to help them see that they're a better outlook on life, right? Like a more positive outlook on life. Yoga can be very, very helpful for that. So as an instructor then, through the yoga classes and through meditation, I can specifically make the topics, turn the meditation focus to have a brighter outlook on life. So just by what I say, my certain cues, even the music that I choose, I can turn that and use that to have a better outlook on life and follow up then with the member, follow up then with the social worker to see, after a few sessions, maybe after a few weeks, I have some follow-up questions like, so how are you feeling? How was your days? Maybe even rate it on a scale of 1 through 10. Are you feeling happier? Are you feeling, you can even ask them straight out, are you feeling like you have a better outlook on life? I think we'd have to have a questionnaire on day 1 and a questionnaire on day 30, something like that. So we have something to compare it to. Like when we first began our sessions, you weren't feeling very happy. How are you feeling now? Those kind of things. But yeah, I think it can work very well as long as we have those things to go off of. And we know exactly what we're working for if we know the certain.
To having a course set of curriculum that can kind of branch off and is guided by the mental health worker, which is providing a diagnosis and and reevaluating, and you're kind of in the intermediate steps of being able to help them with identifying some of the issues they might be having, which goes in the data sets, as well as being able to work through them if there's a worksheet or if it's asking to do certain things, and then journal about it and seeing how their journaling is going based on something very specific. There's a lot of different avenues where you can start to create some activities in their lives, and then as in the yoga session, instead of just doing the yoga per se, have them work through the worksheet and then do some yoga at the end or at the beginning too, and then seeing how they're doing. So it's a way that a type of an online studio is very personalized versus what has happened in the past, where you just take generic videos and kind of, you go through them, and they obviously the goal is to help you with the fitness or in your capabilities, but this is beyond that, to be very, very personalized. So one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is since you've been working with RADECT, and we're trying to do things that haven't traditionally been done within wellness and within healthcare, what are the things you've learned?
Some of the things I've learned, just how well that it can work. So far, being able to work with this team, the communication, how well it flows between team members has been really great. And how wonderful it's been. It's just been really, I don't have any other words for it, but it's just been really great. And I think from a healthcare standpoint, it's been missing from the healthcare standpoint as far as from like the doctors and that kind of thing. Being able to have a team that can be there to represent the patient. And so just seeing it come alive and knowing like, oh my gosh, this is working. This can actually happen, and this can actually be there for clients and patients, has been really amazing. Just to be able to see it happening, see it working, know that it's like a dream come true. It's like a dream come true. And as a patient, it also makes me very excited for the future. Just to be able to see this rolling out like that. So far, it's been a lot going through, and seeing the other, videos and worksheets from the other yoga ambassadors has been really great too, just learning from each other. That's one thing in a professional field, that you're always growing, you're always learning. So no matter where you are in life, no matter where you are in your own field, there's always something else that you can learn from your peers. So that's been really great too, just to continually learn from those that I'm around. Has been really great. So watching their videos, reading their worksheets, and learning from them has been really cool. So no matter what you know, there's always something else that you can fit in your brain.
I think so.
That's been really great.
Physical therapists, as they say, especially for something as complex as lower back pain, is we don't want to be doing certain yoga exercises because that can inflame your back or worsen your back. But it depends on the diagnosis. And the same exercises could help depending on the diagnosis. And then working with the social workers, now you're starting to integrate things like social determinants of health and social and environmental determinants that can influence people, and also being able to think about functional health patterns, and someone that has hypertension to actually having a blood pressure monitoring as they exercise and to make sure they're not stressing themselves, and teaching them what they should be doing, or if we're working directly with a doctor about what type of information you can collect as in a non-clinical setting, but a lot of that information for charting is necessary for the doctor, especially for something like Crohn's disease, where you can do a majority of the charting, which would really save a lot of their time. So,
and I thought too, as well, like seeing one of the physical therapists who specializes in the pelvic floor therapy. A lot of the exercises that she specializes in cross over to yoga and even the Pilates as well. So it was really neat to learn that. Because of that crossover, it's interesting because I think a lot of members too will find like, oh, the stuff that I'm doing can help with X, Y, and Z. And you mentioned even like the low back pain. It's like, yeah, some of the things that they're doing in yoga is also some of the things that you might see in physical therapy for low back pain. So it was really neat to learn that, because if we're making that connection, members can make that connection too. And, I know that they'll get excited about that, knowing like, wow, what I'm doing can help with my low back pain, or what they're doing can help with their shoulder pain. It's really exciting to see and to learn that we're kind of melding those worlds together.
Yes, certainly. It's going to be interesting. People with hypertension worrying about exercise and dieting and seeing if they can lose weight, for instance, and improve strength, and seeing if that positively impacts their hypertension medication management plan, and what the doctor would prescribe, or if it's getting better or if it's getting worse, and understanding if the hypertension can be effectuated that way, in a positive way. Some people obviously are more purely genetic, but also working with people that, for instance, don't have housing, maybe have substance abuse problems, and where yoga has kind of been on the periphery, where a traditional yoga instructor doesn't work with these people. But now you'll be front and center with them, as well as athletes and 100-year-olds. So you'll be working with you kind of be Renaissance people, and I think that's the hope in changing how kind of the wellness as they integrate into other disciplines to effectuate, because you have the ability to do data collection, and you really know the members and the clients that you work with very well, which gives a lot of advantage. Well, I really appreciate your time, Desiree, and it was great learning from you. And hopefully, we've all become Packers fans, even though I'm still remain a Cleveland Browns fan because my therapist tells me to. But or if you're a Vikings fan, we won't hold it against you. We still we have a Minnesota person on our team in RADECT. So,
yes, we do. It's okay. Good to have healthy competition.
Yeah. So we really appreciate your time and talking with you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for describing your journey in wellness and fitness, and also your journey in as having Crohn's disease, and how that's really effectuated or impacted your evolution in the fitness and wellness industry.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.